What's up, everybody, and welcome in to another edition of the Sit Down. As always, if you enjoy this video, please make sure you hit that like button and let me know what you think of today's very interesting discussion in the comment section below. If you're new around here, you just haven't done it yet, or you're living in a rocket seeing this video for the first time, I don't know what you're waiting for. Hit that subscribe button below now so you never miss another Sit Down video. Today's video is powered by our friends at Profit X. Now, like me, a lot of you wager on sports, and Profit X is the future of sports exchanges here in America. When I say exchange, I mean sportsbook. You're not betting against a casino on Profit X. You are betting against other people's odds that they set and odds that you set that can be matched by other people. So basically, when you gamble, you're generally getting the best lines available. Now, tonight, Clippers Nuggets, Game 7, NBA playoffs. I noticed on Profit X when I bet it this morning, and I bet Denver, I got a slightly better price than virtually any other book out there. Now, Profit X is available in, like I said, 40 states, and right now you can get involved. All you have to do is click the link in the pinned comment. This is, to me, the future of gambling. And if you're betting on sports, you got to get the best price. A lot of the time, whether you're betting baseball, basketball, whatever, you're getting the best price on Profit X. So click the pinned comment, get involved, or use my promo code Jeff Nadu when you open your account and get yourself some extra perks, including Profit Cash. Now, Profit X, the best odds in the United States. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into another very interesting organized crime topic, and food is one of the many constants of life. We need it to survive, and whether it's a hamburger, a hot dog, a donut, maybe a slice of pizza, or a bowl of manigot, food is something we all love to indulge in and enjoy. So do gangsters. Currently in America, there are 750,000 restaurants. Some of them are chains. Some of them are mom and pop. And you better believe the mafia has gotten involved with restaurants over the years. Today's video, we are going to delve in to the top 10 mob-owned restaurants today in America. The story next on the Sit Down. The first restaurant we are going to delve into, currently run by the mafia, is a mainstay in Manhattan's Little Italy. Let's be honest. Little Italy is a shell of what it once was, but one of the constants down on Mulberry Street is Cafe Palermo and Cannoli King, which boasts as having the best cannolis on planet Earth. Cafe Palermo is located at 148 Mulberry Street in New York City, and it is owned by a person called John DeLutro. Now, John DeLutro goes by the nickname Baby John, and his father, Tony West DeLutro, was a longtime member and mainstay of the Gambino crime family. If you look into Tony West DeLutro, he at one point was in the crew of Neil Delacroce, been a guy that was down on Mulberry Street and in Little Italy for years. His son would follow him into the life of the mafia. And we know through various federal reports that John DeLutro has been an alleged member of the Gambino crime family for years. In fact, in 1984, he was arrested alongside various other people for selling narcotics. According to Rudy Giuliani, who at the time was a high-end prosecutor, he would state that two of the people arrested in this drug distribution network was one of them, a John L. DeLutro, 30 years old, of 166 Mulberry Street. Mr. DeLutro owns Cafe Palermo at 148 Mulberry Street. Now, we would find out that various kilos of drugs were being sold, and one of the people moving them was Mr. DeLutro. According to what we know, an affidavit would state that investigative agents learned that a narcotics transaction involving John DeLutro and a person called Papo Garcia, two purportedly high-level members of the network, were to take place at a shop at 8 p.m. on July 31st, 1984. Accordingly, surveillance was set up in the vicinity of Cafe Palermo, which is run by DeLutro at 148 Mulberry Street in Little Italy. Now, this again would state that, he was seen, Mr. DeLutro, in possession of narcotics Ultimately, John DeLutro would spend 9 years in federal prison. He would be released in the 90s, and in 2000, he was discussed or wiretap discussed drug deals on the phone in 2000. Over the last 20 plus years, it seems like John DeLutro has taken a bit of a back seat when it comes to his involvement with the mafia. That said, he is still a made member. And a lot of the time, he can be seen holding court at Cafe Palermo on his Twitter or his Instagram account, where he throws up pictures of him with Sly Stallone and other celebrities. I know people that have went into this institution, and Baby John's always very nice to them. He's been regarded to me as a, quote, very nice guy. That said, if you go into Cafe Palermo today, you can find John DeLutro generally there, and he is a made member of the mafia. Another long-time restaurant in Brooklyn is Il Coliseo, which sits at 7704 18th Avenue in Brooklyn. Now, you may not know this, but one of the people that allegedly owns this place is Gambino alleged boss, Lorenzo Mannino. Now, Il Coliseo not only has a restaurant in Brooklyn, but it also has a restaurant down in Red Bank, New Jersey. And when you look into the reviews of Il Coliseo, they're quite good. In fact, a local Google review states everything was exceptional. The food was freshly made and delicious. Definitely worth the wait. The portions were very good. Now, Il Coliseo stretches around the block onto 77th. And from the looks of it, during the C-19 pandemic, they instituted seating outside, which was kind of hemmed in through a bit of a garden, if you will. But from what I understand, Il Coliseo is very good. Now, my former boss, Dave Portnoy, would give the pizza a decent rating, a 7.4. And on the regular, Lorenzo Mannino can be seen at the restaurant. I've talked to multiple people that have seen him inside the restaurant, and he has a hidden interest in the restaurant. Il Coliseo is a mainstay on 18th Avenue. It's one of the real old world Italian restaurants in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. Number 3 on our list is a mainstay. And if you know anything about organized crime, you've probably heard of Pasquale's Rigoletto, which is at 2311 Arthur Avenue in the Bronx. Pasquale's Rigoletto is named after its owner, Pasquale Patsy Parrello, an alleged captain in the Genovese crime family. Now, we know that Borrello is a mainstay in the mob. That said, if I told you he was a mainstay in food, you might not believe me. Some people have said the rigatoni, or not the rigatoni, the ravioli at Rigoletto is, quote, pure perfection. One reviewer would state the ravioli was fresh and delicate, enveloped in a creamy, nutty pesto sauce that was vibrant and packed with flavor. The generous portion of shrimp was cooked to perfection, adding a delightful seafood touch. It was that good. And I have talked to many people, and they will tell me they have said that Patsy's Rigoletto is one of the best restaurants in the Bronx. Now, the owner of Patsy's Rigoletto is, like I said, no stranger to the world of crime. Patsy Parrello has been around the mafia for years. In fact, his restaurant would come up in an indictment several years ago called Operation East Coast, where Borrello, as well as other alleged members of the mafia, were arrested for everything from racketeering to extortion to bookmaking. Now, on or about June 5th or 6th, 2011, Patsy Parrello would order an individual called Anthony Zenzi and another associate, Ronald Mastrovicenzo, to assault a panhandler that was bothering people outside of his restaurant, Patsy's Rigoletto. Ultimately, multiple people would break victim two's knees, and they went looking for him. Eventually, he was beaten. So Borrello had people beat up a panhandler who was bothering and hassling customers outside his restaurant. Other than that, though, Rigoletto is a great place to have some dinner. And if you go there, you might just see Patsy Parrello himself. As many people say, he holds court there on a regular basis. The number 4 restaurant on our list is Lombardi's Pizza, which is located at 32 Spring Street in Lower Manhattan. It is owned allegedly by Genovese captain John Brescio. Now, John Brescio is, again, no stranger to the mob and has been a alleged member for years. If you go into the restaurant, you could see his face plastered all around. And at one point, it would be rated, according to Zagat, quotedly, the best pizza on the planet, according to survey reviewers. Now, John Brescio was asked years ago about his pizza, and he would state, "The only ego I have is to make great pizza. Other than that, I've got no ego. I just want to make my pizza the best way I can. I want people to come to Lombardi's if they want the experience." Now, you might ask, why does a person who has a successful restaurant want to be a part of a cohort like this? Well, again, this is the norm. And generally, when you run a restaurant like this, it's nice to have a backing. John Brescio absolutely has that. And we would know that he is an alleged member of the mafia due to a Waterfront Commission report where he was alleged to have a relationship with a person called Angelo Ruggiero Jr. John Brescio was alleged a capo or captain in the Genovese crime family with convictions pertaining to forgery and illegal gambling. After filing his Waterfront application, Ruggiero was in contact with Brescio, who had inquired about his employment. The ALJ dismissed Ruggiero's defense that Brescio had accidentally telephoned him. Now, we would also find that Brescio was a member after his son-in-law, a person called Michael Giammarino, attempted to get a license inside the Parks Casino in Bensalem, PA, to install a franchise location of Lombardi's. The Casino Control Commission in Pennsylvania declined the offering. Now, in recent years, we haven't heard much from John Brescio. That said, he has repeatedly been named as a captain in the Genovese crime family. Now, I have eaten at Lombardi's before. The pizza is very good. It's one of my favorites in Lower Manhattan. I put it right up there with John's a Bleecker. I urge you to go check it out. People like Miley Cyrus have, and they love it. So make sure you go check out Brescio's Lombardi's on Spring Street. Now, the individual that I am about to name, the true owner of Danico and other restaurants in Manhattan, is probably on the short list of all these people as one of the most wealthy people we'll talk about. Danico is owned by a person called Perry Criscitelli. Now, if you know anything about Criscitelli, he's an alleged made member of the Bonanno crime family, allegedly getting his wings in 2001. Now, Criscitelli currently, the name Danico Ristorante is owned by someone called Frank Criscitelli, which we could garner is Mr. Criscitelli's son. Now, there's all sorts of cool things around Danico, including a 25th anniversary layout of The Sopranos. I know that during the San Gennaro feast, Danico is one of the mainstays down in that vicinity. But a little bit about Criscitelli's past. At one point, he was the owner of a place called Pellegrino's, which is not far from Danico on Mulberry Street. He also owned a restaurant called Il Palazzo at 151 Mulberry Street. Now, Mr. Criscitelli is the nephew of longtime Bonanno member Alfred Al Walker Emberato, who came up in the 60s and 70s, and Criscitelli would kind of follow in his footsteps. It was also said at one point that he was close with Genovese member Albert Kid Blast Gallo. Now, like I said, in 2001, Criscitelli would become a made member of the Mafia, and he was placed into the crew of Richard Cantarella. Once Cantarella flipped, Mr. Criscitelli was placed into the crew of Vinnie Gorgeous Basciano, and Basciano would state at one point, quote, "I've got Perry now. He's going to stay in the background. I told him, you ain't going to be used for nothing. You're an earner. You know, there's shooters and earners. You're an earner. Get on your feet. Do what you got to do." And that's exactly what he did at his restaurants like Pellegrino's and obviously down the road in Danico. I have heard from many people, Danico is one of the best restaurants in all of New York. And it's been owned and operated in the Cicale family since 1993. At one point, it was even regarded as Rudy Giuliani's favorite restaurant, his favorite. There are over 4,000 reviews on Google. And the first report was, quote, great food, exceptional service, immense flavor, bursting in every bite. The Cicale's become a very rich man due to the fact that he has these restaurants. He's often been regarded as one of the best restaurateurs in and around Lower Manhattan. He lives in an over 10,000 square foot home in New Jersey, and he drives a brand new Bentley. This guy in the 2000s and into the 2010s is likely one of the bigger earners in the Bonanno crime family. And what's interesting is at one point, he even was able to become the president of the San Gennaro feast, even after Rudy Giuliani reportedly stamped the San Gennaro feast of organized crime. Mr. Cicale was still able to get by. He would ultimately step down from that position. I strongly urge you go check out Danico, one of the best restaurants in New York. Now, we're going to go outside of New York City a little bit for our seventh person or restaurant on here, and it is La Nova, which, if you're from Buffalo, New York, it is one of the most well-known places in the city. La Nova will sit at 371 West Ferry Street in Buffalo. Now, the owner is the alleged head of the Buffalo crime family, a person called Joseph Todaro Jr. Now, La Nova opened way back in 1957 and is said to be the originator of the Buffalo wing. It's also said to be the home and the official pizza of the Buffalo Bills and Buffalo Sabres. Now, as I said, Todaro has denied involvement that he is in the mafia up until even recently, stating that he doesn't essentially even know what that is. Mr. Todaro has never been arrested, but there are various FBI files stating that he is a made member of the mafia and has been seen commiserating with other members of the mafia. Here he could be seen having some chicken wings with singer Sammy Davis. Now, obviously, Todaro is a much younger man in that photo, but he has been a mainstay for food in Buffalo for years. We also know him in this genre for a bizarre pizza review he did with my former boss, Dave Portnoy. Now, in the video, Todaro is startled by the camera and asks Portnoy to turn the camera off, which Portnoy states that they're recording, and he kind of walks off for a second. He then sits down with Portnoy, and Portnoy reviews the food. He then takes Portnoy on a bizarre trek through his restaurant, even into a bathroom. It's quite odd. It's very interesting, though, and pretty entertaining. At one point, Portnoy makes the claim that, I hope they don't get whacked, and he mentions the word mafia, to which Mr. Todaro laughs and says, we don't say that. I'll include the video in the comments below. Now, as I said, Todaro has made it clear that he is not a member of the mafia. That said, we think at this point, it's abundantly clear that he's been a longtime member of that cohort. When I worked at Barstool, I asked Dave Portnoy about that pizza review, and he stated that he didn't have any idea who he was, but after the fact, he figured it out. And he's actually seen him at various points after the fact and essentially claimed that he was pretty cool. The next place we are going to get into is one of the mainstays in, whether it's the mafia, but food in the mafia. It's Don Pepe, which sits at 13558 Lefferts Boulevard in South Ozone Park. For years, Don Pepe has been called the best clams on earth. And various people, including legendary rapper and restaurateur and food reviewer Action Bronson, has stated that as well. The restaurant has been owned by a man called Michael DeLuca Sr. for a long period of time. Here he can be seen in a review where he's in a video with Action Bronson. Now, DeLuca is no stranger to the Mafia. It's alleged that he's been, for a long period of time, connected to the Genovese crime family through Genovese member Ciro Perrone. And in a video that I recorded here, I discussed Perrone's connection to Don Pepe. In fact, the FBI actually wiretapped a table and got many discussions with Perrone and DeLuca on tape in the 2000s. Eventually, Perrone and DeLuca were both caught up in a racketeering indictment, and we can see that in this discovery, DeLuca's name is mentioned, and during that time, they're at Don Pepe's restaurant speaking at length about, quote, loan sharking businesses. So again, DeLuca is no stranger to the American Mafia, and Don Pepe has been a mainstay for years in terms of Queens. I know today that they still have some of the best baked clams there is. So make sure you go check out Don Pepe's if you haven't. Another mob-owned business currently in motion today is Mateo's, a place that is at 9210 Shore Parkway in Howard Beach, Queens. It is known as a family-style Italian restaurant and bar. Now, the principal owner, or one of the principal owners, is a person called Anthony Amoroso. Now, Anthony Amoroso is not a made member of the Gambino crime family, but known as an associate. At one point, he was a driver for Junior Gotti. And in 1992, when John Gotti Sr. was found guilty, Amoroso was said to be one of the people that was a rabble-rouser outside of the trial, flipping cars and causing riots. We also do know that Junior Gotti had Mr. Amoroso in and around his crew during his reign in the 90s. We also know that in Junior Gotti's 302, he discusses Mr. Amoroso in terms of the murder of Danny Silva. Notice there at the Silver Fox Bar, which we all know about, everybody's talked about it. According to Gotti, a person called Elfie repeatedly bumped into him. Words were exchanged, one thing led to another, and Gotti Jr. ultimately hit Elfie with a broken glass bottle. He then stated that Gotti Jr. then stabbed Elfie with a knife that Gotti Jr. had obtained from Amoroso. So again, and notice this is Gotti Jr. providing the following information up at the top. So again, these guys definitely knew each other and were close. And Mr. Amoroso was actually even mentioned as handing over a knife to Junior Gotti. Now, in recent years, Mr. Amoroso has been a principal owner in Mateo's, and this is one of the big spots in Howard Beach. It's said that for years, Anthony Amoroso has been under the tutelage of the Guarino brothers, most notably Cesar Guarino, who was recently elevated to a captain in the Gambino family. Here in a recent photo, you could see Amoroso to the far left in this photo. In the dead middle, you could see a person we're about to talk about, little Joey DiBenedetto. You can also see other members and associates of the Mafia. They would include Frank Radich and Frank Guadich. Now, Mateo's also is historically been known as the place to ban Peter Pantuccio, who was banned from there for fighting a bartender many years back. As we know, Tuccio is serving 10 years for an arson and has become a bit of a cult favorite here in the mob genre. Another restaurant owned by the Mafia, a pizzeria, is Margarita Pizza, a pizzeria that sits at 16304 Jamaica Avenue in Queens, New York. Margarita Pizza would open in the mid-60s and is today owned allegedly by Joseph Little Joey DiBenedetto, who is a soldier in the Lucchese crime family and the son-in-law of Little Vic Amuso. For years, it's been said that DiBenedetto is a member of the Brooklyn crew in the Lucchese crime family. In late 2024, Dave Portnoy would review Margarita Pizza and give it a very average 6.6 score. Here, DiBenedetto can be seen identified as a member of the Big John Castellucci crew as of 2017. I do know that at one point, I believe he was an acting captain at one time. Here he can be seen in the same photo, dead in the middle with other members and associates, mostly of the Gambino crime family. The final place I'm going to mention is far different than a lot of the food places we've talked about. Most of the spots we've discussed are either Italian restaurants or pizzerias. What if I told you the mafia was involved in acai bowls? They are. There's restaurants in both Pleasantville, New York, as well as Bronxville, New York, called Playa Bowls. Now, Playa Bowls is a franchise that is based out of California, and they boast approximately 130 franchise locations around the country. Now, the principal owners of Pleasantville and Bronxville is a person called Anthony Villani, identified as a longstanding member of the Lucchese crime family. In fact, in this notorious photo 5 years ago at a park in Harlem, Mr. Villani can be seen in the middle of this photo, the bald guy, to the left of Michael DeSantis, who's the alleged boss of this family currently. Villani has been a longstanding member, and in 2022, he was busted alongside a person called Louis Tucci Jr. It's alleged that Louis Tucci Jr. is a part owner in both Playa Bowls locations. In fact, in this indictment in 2020, which is when they were building this case, Villani and Tucci were picked up on tape discussing how bettors would, quote, be taking advantage of new casino games offered during the C-19 pandemic. Villani would tell Tucci, quote, this ain't fucking Monopoly money. The casino is supposed to be a score for us. Now, the score they're referring to is the indictment seen here. It was a large bookmaking operation. In 2025, Anthony Villani and Mr. Tucci would plead guilty to this racketeering case. He would have to pay $4 million in a forfeiture. His sentencing will come subsequently in the next few months. So it's not just pizza and pasta. It's also juice bars specializing in smoothies, fruit bowls, and fruit juices. So if you like that sort of thing and you're up near Westchester in Bronxville or Pleasantville, make sure you check out Playa Bowls, which is owned by a mobster. So that's that. 10 locations in the country owned by mafioso currently. Who did I miss? Drop it in the comments below of a restaurant owned today by a mobster or an associate. Now, I will make this clear. There are all sorts of ones I didn't include here. I don't have all day and can't sit here and go over every one. There are many on Staten Island, many in Brooklyn, and maybe we'll do a part 2 at some point. If you enjoy this video, please hit that like button. And if you'd like to contribute further to the channel, hit that super thanks icon below the video. We'll see you next week here on The Sit Down.